Let me just, I gotta share my screen. Where's Micha? Here we go. Ooh, boop, boop. Alrighty. Oh, come on. This is so choppy. All right. So we started the book last week. And as we said, Micha is most likely a contemporary of Isaiah. So around that time, during the destruction of the Northern Kingdom, etc. So I'm just scrolling up so just so we can refresh ourselves. But here, the context that's given is who are the kings of Judah? Excuse me. And we saw this like very grand language of, God coming down and the mountains are going to melt. And this is all for the transgression of Jacob and idol worship. And therefore, Samaria is going to turn into a wasteland and all of the idols are going to be smashed. And then I will go stripped and naked and lament as sadly as the jackals, because it's just bad and not redeemable, right? I'm just skimming down. And yeah, God's going to send a dispossessor and basically shear off your hair and make yourself bald because everything that was once good is now going to be bad, right? So very stark warning. I would argue still somewhat general, right? It's language of idol worship, language of God coming down. But I think as I mentioned last time, there's no sense of hope here, right? It's just like, no, straight out bad. And so what I mentioned last time is that so this book that I've been using as reference from the Magid series, he breaks Micha up into a series of speeches. So it's convenient for us that the first two speeches, the first one is chapter one and the second speech is chapter two. And then after that, then he takes seven chapters and turns them into six speeches. So I will try to follow the speech structure for the weeks after this. It's basically just merging three, four, and five is essentially what he does. So today is chapter two, speech number two. And so Rabbi Beasley opens with the statement that Micha's second speech is perhaps one of the most excellent examples of prophetic rhetoric in the Tanakh. He no longer threatens the kingdoms with destruction due to idolatrous behavior. Instead, in chapters 2 and 3, Micha outlines a litany of sins for which Judah and Jerusalem will be held responsible. These sins are primarily crimes of social injustices and abuses of power. They include the sins of pride and arrogance that prevent the people from meaningfully evaluating their behavior and making the necessary changes. And the speech can be divided into two. In chapter 2, he addresses the people. In chapter 3, he rebukes Judah's corrupt leadership. And then he says he divides his second speech, meaning this one, into three distinct sections. Verses 1 through 5 is section 1, 6 to 11 is section 2, and then the last 12 and 13 are section 3. So just with that in mind, it's a pretty good introduction. Okay, now I'm going to open my other book. All right, so, oh, come on. Here we go. Here we go. All right, so, Hoi choshvei aven ufoalei ra al mishkevotam beor haboker yasuha ki yesh la'el yadam. So hoi, right? It's this statement of like oive, basically, right? Those who plan iniquity and design evil on their beds. When morning dawns, they do it, for they have the power. I think, as always, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? What he's saying here is who are the people who are doing the bad things right now? They are the people who can, al mishkavotam. I'm curious if you have any footnotes why it says specifically on their beds, al mishkavotam. I sort of think of it like from their offices or their office chair. Um, and they can do it and they can do these sins during the day. Why? Because Yesh El Yadam, they have the power, right? These are people who can commit crimes in broad daylight because they're the ones in charge, right? And so no one can challenge them. Does anyone
I
have
have
anything?
one,
Yeah.
I have a comment from Rashi.
Beautiful.
Work evil on their beds. All night they decide in their hearts how they will perform evil in the morning.
Ah, okay, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have that same from Chabad.
You say the same. Okay, great. Okay,
Same thing.
great. Yeah, I think that certainly makes sense. Yeah. Um, so this, I think depending on one's political orientation, one could argue that this is certain, politicians, right, who think about ways to steal or disadvantage certain people and can just do it, right, in broad daylight because it's just considered acceptable. Politicians or people, I don't know, people in power. I mean, anyway. V'chamdu sadot v'gazalu uvatim v'nasa'u ve'asku, oh sorry, ve'ashku gever uveto ve'ish v'nachalato. They covet fields and seize them, houses and take them away. They defraud men of their homes and people of their land. So it's interesting here, right? It's not, you know, if you want to just make a quick list, you would say fields and animals and houses and all these different things. And here it seems kind of similarly focused, right? We're talking about property. I'm curious if anyone has a footnote talking about why the focus on homes here.
Well, here they don't say property. They
Mm.
say a person and his heritage.
Mm.
His inheritance, I think, is what they mean.
Yes, right. A nachala is the portion of land that you inherit. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right, so the only person that ever did that was Ahab, no? I mean, sorry, the only
I don't
one that we
know.
know of specifically.
We know of,
Okay.
Jacob taking away Esau's inheritance. This
No, no, no. I'm talking about after the inheritance of Joshua. Ahab Jezebel plotted to remove Navot, the neighbor of Ahab,
Oh, yes.
to take away his grapevine field, whatever it's called, and he refused to sell it to him because he said, "This is what my family inherited to me." So, but you're
Mhm.
right. Of course, Jacob also and whatever. But well, Jacob traded. I don't think that he stole. Esau
Right.
thought that he stole, but that's
Yeah, I
actually
forgot the
this week's
Navot
parsha.
story.
So,
Right. Yeah, and I mean, they're remembered as like the worst possible people. So to try to steal someone's nachala, their God-given portion of the land of Israel, is a very bad thing, right? And also, chamdu, I mean, it's the same word, the Ten Commandments, lo tachmod, right? Do not covet. And so here it's clearly like they are violating the core principles of God, of the Torah, etc. Any other footnotes or comments?
well, I'm a bit perplexed about one thing. Here, Micah is addressing the people,
Mm,
and clearly the people have strayed. And yet, at least he starts out his speech to the people as, "It's not your fault, it's the fault of the leaders," letting the people off the hook. That doesn't seem how one addresses the people who have strayed.
mm. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
Is there some explanation of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think that there's in the different populations are targeted at different points, often in the same book. And I think often there's this desire to like rouse people from their slumber, metaphorically, and that this is now we're talking to the leaders, the corrupt leaders. So yeah, it does go back and forth between corrupt leaders and corrupt peoples. But you're right here, it is really the leaders. And I think I just find this so interesting, when we're talking about just like things that still happen today and things that have happened historically and all those connections. And we'll see there's stuff against the people too. All right. So, לכן, כה אמר השם, הנני חושב על המשפחה הזאת רעה, אשר לא תמישו משם oh, yeah, צווארותיכם, ולא תלכו רומה, כי עת רעה היא. Assuredly, thus said God, I am planning such a misfortune against this clan that you will not be able to free your necks from it. You will not be able to walk erect. It will be such a time of disaster. It's very interesting that lachein,
It's
therefore, choshev al hamishpacha hazot ra'ah, right? They translate mishpacha as clan. Literally, the translation would mean family.
I have
but
family.
You
And
have, oh, beautiful. You do have family. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and I do as well.
Oh, very interesting. Okay. Yeah, so my guy points out there's also an example in Amos where the people are called a mishpacha. So he seems to think it just means the nation in general. But it's when you are stealing. Certainly, I just posted about this on Facebook, but I don't know if anyone saw it because people tend not to focus on random political things. But like in Kenya, there's still unrest and um, just so much evidence of the President Ruto just, stealing aid, stealing and tax dollars and just doing all these like disgusting things that so many heads of countries do to their own people. But certainly in my experience living there for years, is realizing like how much colonialists purposely sow divisions, right? The idea of tribes and those distinctions in order to make people not feel like family, right? Which is when you can start stealing from each other. And one of the things the younger generation is doing now in their protests is saying we are all Kenyan, right? Trying to reinstate that feeling of family. And so I think here to say that this is Dafka family that is stealing from one another is really such an indicator of just how like egregious these sins are and also how bad the people are for doing this, right? It's like you're countering human nature and everything by being able to do this to your own family. Okay.
Stein-
Yeah,
Steinsaltz, Steinsaltz says upon this family, comma, the noble classes.
the family is the noble classes.
Well, I don't know what the comma means. That's what the comma's throwing me off. Devising harm upon this family, comma, the noble class.
Hmm.
What does
Interesting. So
it
he thinks
mean?
it's the noble class, huh? Maybe so he's that then it's the nobles he's talking about who are doing the bad things. That's interesting.
That's what the commas are confused.
Huh. Interesting. Hmm. Okay. So maybe there it's like making fun of them being a family or
Hmm.
saying you're a family, you only care for each other and not anyone else.
Whether,
Okay.
yeah.
4. Bayom hahu yisa lechem mashal v'naha nehi nihiyah. Amar Shadod Neshadunu Chelek Ami Yamir Ech Yamishli L'Shovev Sadenu Yichalek. So one thing that of course is not possible to translate is the alliteration here, right? Venaha Nehi Nihiyah. Shadod Neshadunu, excuse me. That, the same word is used to mean different things here in order for emphasis and also just the quality of the poetry. So, translation. In that day, one shall recite a poem about you and utter a bitter lament, and shall say, my people's portion changes hands, how it slips away from me. Our field is allotted to a rebel. We are utterly ravaged. Let's see what we got here. Ravager, we are utterly ravaged. Meaning of Hebrew, uncertain. Does anyone have a different translation than this one?
Yeah, I've got lamented. By the time we come to it, he will say we've been utterly plundered. And then in parentheses, God is exchanging the portion of my people. How could he return what was mine when our field is a portion to the enemy?
Hmm. Yeah, here I've got, we are
I,
raided and
I,
ruined, our people's portion seized. How then does he take what is mine and divide up our fields?
in
Hmm.
mine it says, they have robbed us, and he changes the portion of my people. How will he turn to me to return our fields, which he divides?
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting.
Again, Steinsaltz says many interpret this verse as referring to an external enemy that will come and seize the people's field.
Hmm.
Who's
Hmm.
the external enemy?
Hmm.
I have
But
it
this
as clearly as God.
Interesting. Hmm.
And I have he instead of one. I don't know about other people's translations.
He instead of what?
Instead of one shall recite a poem. It's he will.
Ah,
A small h. Not
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Right. See, I'm just reading here like that it's the prophets.
and a false prophet also.
Right, exactly.
It's interesting. I have he with a capital H.
Oh, interesting.
I just have the capital H theory for when he will say, but the other ones are a small h.
But the
Interesting.
capital H is also the beginning of a sentence.
Yeah.
Well, the way that how will he, capital H, turn to me to return our fields which he divides?
Yeah, that's definitely a capital H.
And
To me.
the one that you read originally, Ruth, you have one short poem about you. In the Chabad versions, on that day he shall take up a parable against you.
Right. That's the literal meaning of mashal here. Right, exactly, is parable. But does it explain what that means? Like what is the parable?
It goes about the lamentation, and notice that everything in this, of course, is on the future tense. Shall, because he's coming. There's no mention about that.
Interesting.
So here, and this is from Radak, a false prophet will lament in the obscure wording of a parable because his prophecies will not be fulfilled and his advice will come to naught.
Okay. Interesting.
And
All
I've
right.
got it. It's
Yeah. Go ahead.
I've got the false prophet whose advice and predictions had not materialized, and he therefore laments and recites dirges. It's referred to as a parable because he expresses his lamentations in parables. And that's Radak.
Feels like a bit of a stretch. Yeah. Like, okay, sure.
Apparently.
Yeah. Okay, so the last pasuk of Rabbi Beasley's proposed separation. Lachein lo hiye lecha mashlich chevel bagorel bikal Hashem. Truly, none of you shall cast a lot cord in the assembly of God. Do we have different translations for this? Therefore, perhaps?
I've got therefore.
Therefore, yeah, that's lachein, yeah. Let's
What's
see.
a lot cord?
Yeah, so does anyone have a good explanation of what this is talking about here?
I've got a conveyor's line.
And the explanation Chabad says is when it says who cast a lot cord, they have who cast a line, divides a heritage. It is customary to divide a heritage with a measuring line.
Right. Exactly.
Is that what cord?
Yes, Steinsaltz
right?
That makes sense.
Steinsaltz agrees in different words. There will be no son of the members of the group who will merit an inherited portion in the congregation of the Lord. It's at the line of inheritance.
Yep. Right. My guy says it should
line for the lot. When one wishes to divide or portion his property, he measures its boundaries with a cord.
Okay.
A piece of land, thus acquiring title to it.
Oh, good. Like putting stakes and lines that they do now when they're surveying.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting here, like here he explains that what does this part mean? Shazar o yikaret, that is, children will be cut off, right? Like karet. Velo yihye lo mi she'irash et nachalato mimishpachto benachlat Hashem. There isn't going to be anyone who's going to inherit his portion from his family God's, inheritance of the land. Shekshadam Yisrael niftar min ha'olam u'marisha chalko ba'aretz levanav acharav, because when someone dies, they leave their land to their children. Yorshav mekimim et shmo al nachalato, right? Who preserve his name as attached to that nachalat, to that portion of land. Aval kshe'hamet ein lo yorshim mimishpachto b'nachalato, but when the dead doesn't have inheritors from his family for his land portion, shmo nimche mikal Hashem, his name is going to be erased from the Kal of Hashem, Bezura Agdola, right? And that's a very bad thing. So I think, yeah, what he's saying, his interpretation here is that it means that when you die and no one's left to inherit you, your name is just going to be gone forever and not preserved, if I understood that correctly.
Oh,
And here
so
it says something like that. Micah responds to the false prophet that he will not have any heirs to divide up his inheritance.
Okay. Right. And I guess the step that my guy's adding is, and like no one to step in and preserve it
Correct.
in your name, right? Yeah. Okay. Oops. Sorry. Alrighty. So, part 2. Al tatifu yatifun lo yatifu la'ela lo yisag klimot. So clearly, if you could hear, the Hebrew, it's the same word is used 3 times. Tatifu yatifun lo yatifu. Stop preaching, they preach. That's no way to preach, right? It sounds almost like Dr. Seuss or something like that, right? Shame shall not overtake us. So yeah, he says, "Ela divrei harishaim." This is the words of the wicked who want to stop the prophets from talking, right? So they just say, "Stop talking," and we see this elsewhere in the book of Amos. Also, Amatzia the Kohen says, "Just leave. We don't want to hear you." Right? It's almost like a "la la la, can't hear you" type of thing. And so they say, "Just get out." And do you also have shame as the definition here? Is the translation?
yeah,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
cannot take shame.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. Ha'amur Beit Yaakov, hakatzar ruach Hashem im ele ma'alalav, halo devarai yetivu im hayashar halech. Is the house of Jacob condemned? Is God's patience short? Has such been the practice? To be sure, my words are friendly to those who walk in rectitude. Does anyone have a nicer translation than that?
My
The
way,
ending, my ways are benevolent with the one who walks with uprightness.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds so much nicer. Any good footnotes here?
I have a little different translation with a question when it says to my words, what is it? To be sure, my words are friendly. No? That's a positive line, right? My words are friendly to those who walk in gratitude. And in mine said, do my words not benefit? It's a question in a negative. No? Do my words not benefit the one who goes straight? I like better yours.
Interesting.
And mine is in a question, and yours is in
Yeah,
a statement.
that's interesting. And so, okay, so also I just want to add here that so Rabbi Beasley, he says this is a section where it's the imagined response of the people, right? 1 through 5, Micha's yelling at the people, and now they are responding. And he says this section has traditionally been difficult to interpret because while it is a disputation between Micha and the false prophets, as the references and vocabulary associated with prophecy make clear, it is unclear who speaks which section. Right. So we just don't know who is supposed to be saying which part. And he says, understanding the disputation here is challenging because Micha will often quote his opponents without specifying where their words begin and end. We understand his disputants as having said all of verses 6 and 7, although most commentators understand the final phrase of verse 7 as Micha's opening response to his disputants. Right. Okay. So that's where we kind of get a little problem here, right? So definitely the people are responding in 6 saying stop preaching and then say, what? Are you really telling us things are all bad? No, like that's not how God works. And then I guess most people say that Im Hayashar Halech is the beginning of Micha's response to those who walk upright, but Beasley is arguing that no, that's not true.
I have a comment from Rashi here
Great.
that says, is it proper to spurn God's word? Is God so impatient, short-spirited, that he cannot show us mercy as he did in the past?
Mm,
I'm not sure.
okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well,
I
that's a
think I
question
understand
whether
that.
they wondering whether God has left the people.
Right.
Is there still a God active? Which is a question we ask today as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also think it's interesting here to see that like the people are basically saying, God's never done this to us before, right? God always like comes around, the worst isn't really going to happen. And now Micha's like, well, actually, right? Verse 8 is Ve'etmul amil oyev yikomem mimul salma eder tafshitun me'ovrim betach shuvei milchama. But an enemy arises against my people. You strip the mantle with the cloak off such as pass unsuspecting, who are turned away from war. Please tell me someone's got a better translation than this one.
I've got yesterday. Yesterday, my people arose
Yes.
as an enemy to expel
Yes.
us for the sake of a garment and mantle.
Mm-hmm. Correct. It is yesterday. Etzmol, right? Yep. So here Beasley says, but instead my people arise as their own enemy. They strip fine outer garments from passersby. Those who felt safe returning from war become like hopeless men. So he actually doesn't include yesterday, but plenty of people do. Which I think the implication is like, yeah, when we say yesterday, that it's already happened, right? This isn't like something that's happening. It's already started, and therefore it's not like a theoretical anymore.
My note says that yesterday means just a short time ago, too recently for you to be able to deny your guilt.
So I think I'm having difficulty with the historical context to put this up against because I'm a little confused as to whether are both the northern and the southern kingdoms still in existence at this time?
So he's dated to the time when the Northern Kingdom is destroyed. So is he just talking to Judah and the Northern Kingdom's already been destroyed, or is he talking to Judah and the North is still standing? We don't know totally.
Because it matters how I look at this. If the North has not been destroyed, then they're right to assume that God's going to come around. If the North has been destroyed and all the people
Mm,
exiled northwards,
right.
and nothing left of the Northern Kingdom, and Judah stands alone, then I'm going to view this differently in terms of the people are delusional if they think that God hasn't refused to forgive them.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know if there's totally a way to know. I think people, like all things with the Navim, people disagree because no one really knows. Yeah. Um, okay. And so, right. So Micha continues here. Neshe ami tigarshun mi beit ta'anugea me'al olaleha tikhu hadari le'olam. You drive the women of my people away from their pleasant homes. You deprive their infants of my glory forever. Yikes. Well, that's not good.
Infants.
Sorry?
I just don't find that infants. I have husbands, but no infants. If you deprive their infants of my glory forever.
Alrighty. So,
So drive, why people you drive away from the house of your delights? Well, that's the beginning, no? I think it's the next one.
okay. So now we continue. Kumu לכו, כי לא זאת המנוחה בעבור טמאה תחבל וחבל נמרץ. Up and depart, this is no resting place because of your defilement. Terrible destruction shall befall. Right, so literally get up because you can't be here. All right.
So
Okay.
some folk says the land will wound you. What does that mean?
Great. Yeah. I mean, like techabel is the same word as mechablim, terrorists, right? So ba'avur tam'ah techabel, like, yeah, I mean, you will be wounded, v'chevel nimratz, and
But it's the land. Oh,
yeah, techabel, but yeah.
wound you.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like Korach? I mean, is the land gonna
Oh,
wound you?
interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Does anyone have anything on that? It's a great question. I love that.
How does the land wound you? Or just, well, nature.
I mean, here he says taflit etchem el mechutzala, that she'll like spit you out or like exile you from outside of her, meaning that the land will injure you by yeah, I mean but like the land is the one that is exiling you. He says that yeah,
It could
vohu
just be
la'eretz
famine.
chavlei leida v'hi
It could-
techabel. I think it's basically saying like the land is gonna be, it's like it's in labor, and then maybe the push is pushing you guys out of the land. It's strange.
Maybe a famine. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I've got arise and go, and then in parentheses into exile, because not for this purpose is the resting place given to you. Because it has become defiled, it will destroy you absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't actually have the land kicking you out.
Yeah, it says arise
Yeah,
and go into exile.
that makes exile a
Mhm.
positive thing. Go into exile because the land is going to harm you, defile you, and our exile is not always ever seen as a positive thing.
Right.
So this, I can't accept that translation because it makes exile preferable.
Well, it's saying you're not good enough to stay here. This is an Art Scroll translation.
Okay. Right.
Does the
Yeah.
Hebrew justify that?
Sorry?
Does the Hebrew justify exile being preferable to saying? I can't read Hebrew.
Those are, I think it's saying like you have to leave because this is not where you can't stay here.
It's just there's no choice. It seems like
Right.
there's going to be no choice. You can't survive here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not that it's preferable. It's just that, like, if there's no water and
Like literally.
It's like
for example, if there's no water and you can't grow anything, you and your animals can't survive, you gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It says in Leviticus, the land of Israel can't tolerate sinners. The Torah writes that Israel must not defile the land they're inheriting. If they do, the land would spew them out, as it has cast out its previous inhabitants for their abominable acts.
Right. But that's a future pluperfect. Would throw them out as opposed to have to. It's a different tense, which allows some wiggle room as the other prophets have. So
Well, here it just says that the land of Israel, which is called the resting place, was not meant for you to contaminate with your degenerate actions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, I'm just mindful of the time. Let's want to make sure we get through the last 3 verses. So this is the last verse of the second section. Lu ish holech ruach vasheker kizev atif lecha leyain uleshechar v'hayam matif ha'am hazeh. If someone were to go about uttering windy, baseless falsehood, I'll preach to you in favor of wine and liquor. That would be a preacher acceptable to this people. So grammatically kind of all over the place, right? Basically saying you guys want people who tell you like stupidity and all those things. Yeah. All right, last two verses. Asof e'esof Yaakov kulach kabetz akabetz she'erit Yisrael yachad asimenu ketzon batzra ke'eder betoch hadavro tehimena me adam. I will assemble Jacob, all of you. I will bring together the remnant of Israel. I will make them all like sheep of Botzra, like a flock inside its pen. They will be noisy with people. Like such a funny. Here, let's just do the last two together. Allah haporetz lifnehem partzu ve'avru sha'ar ve'etzu vo ve'avor malkam lifnehem ve'Hashem berosham. One who makes a breach goes before them. They enlarge it to a gate and leave by it. Their king marches before them, God at their head. Oh boy. All right. So my guy Beasley headlines this a promise of protection or exile. Great. He says most commentators understand the final two verses of the second speech as Micha attempting to provide consolation. Having promised judgment and exile for the crimes outlined above, Micha is trying to express a measure of hope and consolation. For a remnant of the people, there will be a salvation, and God himself will lead it. The optimistic interpretation blends in well with Micha's overall strategy of combining both threats of judgment and destruction with promises of hope and salvation. ... However, not all the commentators view verses 12 to 13 as describing a future redemption. Malbim understands them as positive, but interprets them as a continuation of the words of the false prophets above, which is fascinating, right? To say, well, yeah, it's positive, but this is what the false prophets have been telling the people. And he also that this reminds us that Yirmiyahu had to contend with the same thing 100 years later. And Radak is perhaps most sensitive to the negative connotations of many of the words in these verses, and he interprets them as a continuation of the punishment that the people will face, not their deliverance. So it's very interesting, right? Like, is this good? Is this bad? We don't know. What do your footnotes say?
All of the above.
All of the above? Okay.
With, Radak that you mentioned referring to King Zedekiah, who tried to escape from Jerusalem by breaching through the wall of the city when it was besieged by the Babylonians.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, right, exactly. Of like being in a pen and breaking through is very familiar to people living in Jerusalem. Just, I mean, that imagery is not, yeah, they're in a walled city, right? Isn't that great?
So here it says the Messiah will break through all the barriers.
Right.
That's in the translation or the comment?
That's in the king. Yeah.
Right.
With Hashem at the head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That leads, to the positive thing is that the people can stay in the land. It's better in exile, at least the remnant of them or some of them, which addresses what I was concerned about before.
Right. But I love this idea that like we don't know if this is a punishment or like consolation or a false prophecy of comfort, right? It's great. Like it's amazing. And I think also I like the idea that there's a confusion between whether it's a genuine prophecy or a false prophecy, because something I discuss a lot with my students is like what's the real joy in being told all your people are going to be destroyed, but don't worry, if you will survive. Is that really comforting? What about everyone who's not going to survive, right? And so here it's like, is that the comfort that the false prophets tried to use on the people, or is that the comfort that the real prophet is trying to use for the people?
Oi.
I know, oi, indeed.
There is a concept in many prophecies of a remnant, right?
Yes.
Yeshayahu talks about it, Yirmiyahu talks about a remnant will survive. And I think that is minimally comforting if you think of the Jewish people surviving as opposed to more of a personal survival. So if that aspect is what's being talked about here, then there is some hope for the people in general.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting. Somebody posted this morning a question. What happens if everything goes okay with Mom Donnie? What if in the end it's all okay? Then what?
False prophet. Yeah.
No, I thought it was interesting. It was a biblical question.
A remnant will survive.
A remnant will survive.
Yeah.
Well, that is hope, that the remnant survive. The seed of Abraham will survive, and that's been the story of our people all along. We shed people along the way constantly, but after 3,000 years, we're still here, and that's the comforting
Amen.
part.
Right. It's just that that leans so heavily on peoplehood, right? Which I think is good. But that means that, I mean, it's so extreme, but I think it's relevant, like standing in line for the gas chamber, right? It was like, is it comforting to have someone say, don't worry, a few of you will survive? Or are you thinking, but what about my family? What about my life? What about Europe? Is it really comforting in that moment? Is it enough to know that a few of you will survive?
But isn't that what we've lived with forever?
Yeah.
I mean, and multiple times, 13 times when a substantial part of the Jewish people have been slaughtered in a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yet Judaism has gone on where all the other cultures and civilizations have disappeared.
But then you really have to be proud of being Jewish, right? Which is good. I mean, I hope people are, but that's what I'm saying. In order to find that value of peoplehood, that comfort in there, you have to really want to be part of our people and to almost in some ways value that as much, if not, I mean, more, I guess, than your own life, right? Which is a tall order. That's a lot to ask. I think it's a reasonable thing to ask, but, we have to be aware of what really is being asked of us, especially when we live in America, which is like such an individualist society, right? We don't really think it like that so naturally, so well. All right, well, just some light
But then
lunch
there's
discussion.
there's that point that we don't really have a choice. I
Yeah.
mean, we think we do. We
Yeah.
think we might, but do we really? I
Yeah.
mean, you can say, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm German. I'm not." It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So whether we are proud or not,
Yeah.
we can't stop when we don't feel proud.
Yep.
You have to keep. It has to be both ways. Got to keep going.
Yep.
And
100%.
remnant that survives is always the believed to be the more faithful or the more observant, because it's the traditional thought is it's the ones who have sinned who disappear. So all we have to do to be part of that remnant is follow the commandments.
Oh no, man! I wish that were true.
Well,
I have recent experience that isn't. That doesn't work out so well.
And in fact, after World War II and the Holocaust, I mean, there was just like a tiny remnant, if that, left in Europe of Hasidim and people who were really truly observant and very frum, which is why they evolved all of them from army duty, because like, oh, there are 50 people left here. What are they going to do?
You're citing empiricism, but for thousands of years, their basic theology that has been that the good survived. We now look at the Holocaust and we look at other things in historical perspective and see that it's not true. Good, bad things happen to good people, but up until the Enlightenment, that was the Jewish theology, that it's if you observe, if your mezuzah is perfect, you survive. If you observe, you survive. It's the bad ones who don't, and it's only since the Enlightenment that we've actually looked empirically and looked at history and realized that this is not true.
You have to work with Hashem. I mean, the Rebbe said, if someone burglarizes your house, you can check your mezuzah, but change the locks on your doors too.
I agree with you.
I love it. Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. I teach in 2 minutes, so I have to run.
All right.
This was
Thank you,
lovely.
Ruth.
So we'll see each other in 2 weeks then. Happy Thanksgiving,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.